those nerves. Mauri ora kia tātou I tēnei wā. Thank you all for tuning in to the Planting Seeds podcast. The support is always unreal. Here we are at the YOUKNOW facility, the HQ here in Tāmaki. Big shout out to Jay Webb and the team here for allowing this space for us to have a conversation, to bring these episodes, to hopefully with the intention to give value to the listeners. And today, got the sis Tegan.
Kia ora.
How are you?
I'm good. I'm feeling good. It's Friday. We're good.
And what's it like for you being on that side?
It's always interesting. I think my most comfortable sort of position seems to be in front of a microphone, no matter what I'm doing. Mm-hmm. But I do love, as self-indulgent as it sounds, I'm like, I do love when someone asks me a question instead of the other way around. So it's cool.
It does, like, I feel refreshed as well sometimes when I go onto a podcast and I get to sort of like share some of the lessons and things that I'm going through, because more often than not, I'm trying to think about a question to get to know someone else more.
Yeah.
So having that space to sort of bring out myself, it's actually like quite a nice feeling. So for you to experience this on the podcast, like I'm happy to share the space with you, bro.
Oh, thank you.
You're such a crack up, like you've got
really?
this energy around you that's like, that's funny, that's playful, that's, and where does that come from for you, bro? If you're to sort of, like, do you know what I mean? Like, you got this bubbly kind of nature.
Yeah. I don't know where it comes from. I think I have naturally always been, actually, ironically, like I'm such an optimist, and I try to always have a positive mindset and stuff like that. But also, as someone who's also an anxious person, sometimes you actually aren't an optimist at all. You're thinking of worst case scenarios. But I think I love laughing, and I love laughing with people, but I also love making people laugh. And I think I've always got a smile on my face, and that's a way I've always been growing up as well. So I think just naturally that's the kind of energy I have. And I don't know. I just don't want to take life too seriously. I want to work hard and do all that stuff, but I just want to have fun while I'm here,
And that's awesome. I was telling a few people, telling my wife Finipani, I'm having a podcast with Tegan, and even like my mother-in-law, and they were just like, oh, bro, she seems awesome. So, just to give you a bit of that words of affirmation.
Yes, I love the words of affirmation. Yeah, I love it, and I love being the girl that I don't know, like being the girl that can just laugh at herself, like very self-deprecating, I think, in order, like you have to be able to laugh at yourself to, I don't know, just enjoy life. Like if I got offended every time someone threw something at me, or even the boys at work were taking the piss out of me, I think like I wouldn't enjoy my job half as much. I love being able to be the first to the punchline before they make fun of me. I'm like, well, let me make fun of myself first. Yeah, I love that, and I think that's so cool that it seems to sort of connect with some people, and I think it's cool because I think with women we're naturally sort of put into a little bit of a box, not to sound too woke, but a little bit of a box where we're kind of meant to be the responsible ones, or the ones telling the boys to rein it in. So like naturally in radio, the female sort of role is always kind of like, guys, let's stop that. Stop getting out of line. Like, come on. And it's like, you just have to do celebrity gossip and all this kind of stuff. There's all these standards. And I think in my space, I've been fortunate enough that they've kind of let me have free reign with what my female role is. And I've made more of a Tegan role. And it's just, the boys are telling me, rein it in, like, or and stuff like that, because I'm saying the crass joke or something like that. Yeah. And I think that's more fun, and I think it gives a space for more girls to, we don't have to be like polite or not polite, I think it's the wrong word, but like a girl burps and you're like, oh gross, but a guy burps and it's like no one
normal.
No one really like turns their head, whereas like I don't care, like I'll burp, I'll do all of that. And I just like being able to go a little bit against the grain in that sense. It's not intentional, it's definitely who I am, but I like that there's just another person in our sort of media space that can do that.
Yeah, I think that's the cool thing as well, is just the ability to express yourself, and particularly on a platform such as, Mai FM, which is where you work, and for other females or even just other people to see like, holy hell, like, she's really out here just sort of expressing herself. And I think furthermore to that, when people are sort of like clouding themselves with that, I guess, judgment of self. We sort of tend to put ourselves in our own box.
Yeah.
But seeing people express in the way that you do, or I guess other people, it gives them that freedom to being like, all right, let me just push the boundaries here. Let me just feel what this feels like. And more often than not, when we just breach it a little bit, there's a bit more joy, isn't there?
Yeah, hard up. I 100% agree. And I think it's really weird sort of like being young and figuring yourself out on like in such a public way. But I feel so fortunate that I've been able to do it that way, because everyone's kind of just had free reign on me to, judge me or whatever. But I think it was the best space to be like thrown in the deep end and then just figure myself out and just be exactly who I want to be, and just not care if people aren't into it. But it seems that people are kind of into it, which is cool. But yeah, I love it.
And that's awesome. Shot takes.
Yeah.
And with when we talk about, we're talking about radio, and do you just want to like share with people who might not necessarily be aware of what it is that you do, and just talk about your journey to get to that point?
Sure. So I am a broadcaster. Sounds like a fancy word. It's like I say I'm a broadcaster if I was to write it down on like a form, but I'm a radio host. I'm 1/3 of the My Morning Crew on Mai FM here in Aotearoa. I am a co-host on the show with Brooke Rusco and Jordan Whahakolo, and it's super fun. Basically, we do a show from 6 a.m. till 10 a.m. Monday to Friday, and we just like to bring a vibe. We like to bring really good energy and do things that are kind of not traditionally radio, I guess, have a bit more real conversations, take the piss out of each other a little bit more, actually have fun. I think the three of us are so fortunate that our little synergy, our relationships that we have with each other are so genuine that it's like we're just hanging out and you guys are just there for the conversation as well, as opposed to like three people being forced together in order to create some radio wacky gaggy show like that. It is all for show. I think we really just come through, and like a lot of the stuff we talk about on air is just stuff we've talked about randomly in a conversation, and we're gone, hey, let's talk about that. That's actually quite interesting. Like I think yesterday I told Jordan, I was like, oh, you need to wear some more sunblock, like every day. And he was like, that's not a thing. I said, yeah, girls wear sunblock every single day. I was like, I don't want wrinkly hands. Like, what are you talking about? My hands on the steering wheel? And he's like, that's not normal. Let's talk about it. That's not a thing. But myself, Brooke, and Jordan. Brooke's new to the show. We had Nixon, obviously, previously. And Nixon was awesome. I got to start my radio journey with him when I kind of got plucked out of obscurity to audition for this role, and somehow the universe was looking after me, and I managed to get it, which was cool. So I had Nixon, and then Brooke's come in this year, but like Jordan and Brooke have been friends for years, so they already had that relationship, and I've worked at Mai for, this is my 4th year now, and I've always been quite close with Brooke, so it's so cool that we've been able to come together, and like it's not this weird thing where we're trying to figure each other out. We actually know each other all really well, and we're just so like blessed to be able to do it all together, and like we know how each other operate, we know how each other communicate. Like Jordan knows how to piss me off just like I know how to piss him off too, but it's like, and it's knowing those boundaries and all that kind of stuff. So I guess that's what we do. We just hang out and you guys get to listen along for the ride. But yeah, my journey's been pretty random. I studied at uni. I went to AUT. Actually failed radio at uni, which is kind of the running joke. I failed radio, went and did TV and screen production. Ended up landing a video editing role and like a content creating role at George FM, which is for anyone who's outside of Auckland, probably not as popular, but it's like a electronic dance music station. It's real popular up here in Tamaki Makaurau. It's such a fun place to work, all under the same umbrella as Mai FM.
Oh, right. And
just from working there, making relationships between people in different stations, my name was sort of thrown in the mix, in the hat, when Lily Toto, who was there before me, decided to step down from Mai FM. She wanted to go travel, do her thing. My name was sort of plucked. They wanted to come have a yarn with me. I had a yarn. They were like, we want you to audition for this role. And I was like, what? Why? Like, why? Did it anyway. And I think the fact that I didn't do radio, wasn't trained, and I was just being myself, I think that's what they kind of liked. So I was really fortunate enough to get through the few sort of audition stages, and I landed the role. And yeah, the rest is kind of history, I guess. So I was first with Nixon and Nate, and then Nate moved on. and then it was me, Nixon, and Jordan, and then now, me, Jordan, and Brooke.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so you didn't even see this, well, obviously you probably would have had ambition at one point,
Yeah.
but at the time it came, were you just like so surprised around how it all happened, or were you sort of like jokingly putting it out there?
Well,
along the way?
it's kind of funny, like if I think about like going way back to when I was growing up, I've always been a big radio girl, bit of a radio nerd. I would listen to The Edge growing up. Palmy didn't really have Mai at the time. Like Fletch, Fauna, Megan, JJ, Mike and Dom, those were like the names, Polly and Grant, that's all the stuff that I was listening to. And then as we got older, Mai FM got popular in Palmy. I was listening to Nixon, Nate and Kanoa, and I was like, I loved radio, and I used to always ring up radio stations, like try to win the competitions, like, call up for the phoners, everything like that. And I always had an interest in it, and that is why I studied communications. I loved the whole media space. But like when you get to uni or studying, it's pretty much, it's drummed into you pretty early. A job, like an on-air role, a presenting role, hard to attain. Like they're not something, if that's what you want to do, make sure you learn everything else, because you may not be able to get it, because they're very limited roles. So that was the sort of reality check I always had. I had a lot of people at uni sort of say things to me like, nah, one day you'll do something like that. And I was like, oh, maybe. And it's actually me and one other friend. We used to always get told at uni, you guys are so going to be like hosts or something one day. And both of us are radio hosts now at MediaWorks. He's on the Edge afternoons, Jaden King, shout out to him. And so it's quite funny that I kind of gave myself a reality check, but I think because I always really believed that maybe one day that could happen, it was like I almost was able to manifest it into reality. I don't know. But before Lily had announced she was leaving, I sort of heard it through the grapevine, and a friend of mine said, like, would you ever go for that? And I was like, oh, I don't know, like maybe. She goes, far out, like imagine if you did and you got it. And I was like, oh, maybe. Then I had another friend say to me, we heard it, and she goes, oh, yeah, imagine if you went for it. And I was like, oh, nah. And I never went for it. I got approached.
Wow.
So it was so weird how it all happened. And when I think back now, I'm like, wow, the universe was really giving me all these little signs that you need to try this, you need to go for this. And now that I'm here and I'm 3 years into this role, I'm like, there's nowhere else I should be. I'm exactly where I need to be. And I cannot imagine doing anything else.
Wow.
So I'm a big manifester now. I'm like, you can manifest that into reality. Just say, I can do this. You just go, I've got this. Time hasn't caught up yet. Yeah, but I love it.
I believe in that wholeheartedly too. Like
law of attraction, right? Yeah,
it's proper. I'm heavy about all of that stuff too, and it's great to believe in it, because whether you believe in it or not, it's still working. You know what I mean? So just having that association to it, and learning to understand it better, and starting to put things in your mind, and starting to contemplate it, and then eventually you see it play out in your life, and you're like, wow, there's a connection there. And so for it to start playing out in your life in the way that it has, and I think it just goes to show, just throughout your whole life, you've sort of been putting out this sort of energy of like, yo, I want to do that one day, and you took the necessary roads, and obviously roads just started to shift and change, but you just keep putting it out there, and man, to see you thriving, and that's what I can see, you're thriving in the space that you're in at the moment. And I just want to go back to, you as a little kid ringing up. Did you ever win anything, or was there anything that what was the best thing that you got ringing up?
I don't know. So I always had such a fascination with like being a part of like shows like What Now. I loved What Now. Every single week I was sending in drawings. Studio 2 with Matt Gibbs, sending in drawings, because I used to love to draw, because all I wanted was for them to hold up my drawing and be like a part of it. I used to win movie tickets from What Now all the time, because I would enter all these drawing competitions. I used to like Fletch, Fauna, Megan would be doing a show, and they'd have a phoner, and I would be trying to get through to ring. Not so much competitions. It was always like I wanted to tell a story, like I wanted to be a part of it, and I got such a kick out of it. So I think I always just loved that aspect of it. And then also like growing up, when there was like things at school, like I wasn't a big performer or anything. I was actually quite shy growing up, but I always found myself in the space of like, for the play, I was the narrator. And like, I was approached by someone, my parents were approached by someone when I was like 10, because I was narrating a play at school, and it was like, she's got a great voice, great, clear, concise voice. Like I'd love to like get her on a talent agency. And I was like, No, because I was so shy. I was just like, not into it. But it was just so funny. There's all these little Easter eggs that seem to come up throughout my life, and then somehow it's just got there. And I think in my last year of school, I was like house captain, and me and my co-captain Tegan, which is kind of crack up. We had to run the assemblies every week, and it got quite natural for me speaking in front of crowds and all that kind of stuff. Still get nervous. Even these days, I still get nervous doing that kind of stuff. But just being able to talk in front of a mic, that was all quite natural for me, and it helped me build my confidence a lot. But I still from where I was at uni compared to now is like just a total different person. Yeah.
And how do you sort of get yourself ready to turn it on? Because obviously you're on every single day, Monday to Friday, and sometimes you're just not feeling so good. So how do you go through that, knowing that you're going through something, but knowing you got to give the energy to your listeners? How do you get yourself in a space to sort of like turn it on for what you do?
I think it's like I've definitely gone through some times where it's been a real struggle, and I think I actually just reached a point. I had lunch with one of my friends, Cara Ricard, yesterday, and she was like, how are the early mornings going for you? And I was like, I think I've just hit the point where they're getting hard. And she goes, yep, you've done it for 3 years. That's about right. Like, it starts to get quite tiring. But I think just reminding myself, like, how much fun I can have every day if I just allow myself to have fun. But, like, the boys, even if they're not trying, every single morning they do put a smile on my face. And like the Mai whānau, all of our listeners, we've got so many around Aotearoa, and they're so funny. They keep us humble, and they're so crack up. And I think I just remember how cool that I get to communicate and share a space with them every single day. So I think gratitude is a big one for me. That's really, really works. And just also knowing that, like, as soon as I walk in the studio door, like, whatever's going on, it's got to just stay. It's got to stay behind, because our show should be a sense of escapism, not just for us, but even people listening that maybe are having a kind of crappy day. I would love if they tuned in and they had a laugh as well. So I think, just gratitude, reminding myself that it needs to serve as escapism. I don't want work to ever become a chore, because then it's not. Maybe that's not where I should be anymore. If I think it's a chore, I'm like, okay, maybe I need to rejig something in my life. I just don't want that to be a thing, because as corny as it is, like, if you've got a job you love, you never work a day in your life. That's the kind of the mindset I always have to be in. But
how true is it though? When you actually do enjoy what you love, like, you've almost cracked it. You've hit the cheat code, because if you're not sleeping, you're working almost. Those are the two areas where you're spending the majority of your time and energy. And if you can sort of like get up and go and there's a saying that goes, you either got to go to work or you get to go to work. It's a simple shift in mindset that sort of helps you look for, the gratitude or the appreciation about what it is that you get to do. And almost always it's just once you get out of bed and you sort of start moving, you sort of already get into that space of like, all right, I'm already up now, like, let's just get going and let's get moving. And it does seem like your fellas' audience is just hilarious, man. Like, some of the things that come through, I'm sure you fellas don't even put half of the stuff out on there just for some of the things that come through, right?
And I do think sometimes it's kind of a matter of maybe because we take the piss out of ourselves so much that we've sort of created this almost safe space for them to do it as well. And I feel that energy, and I feel, not saying it's ever not been like that, but there are definitely radio stations I listen to because, being in the space, it's good to listen to other people 100%. And see what they're up to. I don't think everyone has such a like a family vibe, like a whānau vibe, and it's kind of like, when we pick up the phone, hey bro, hey sis, like, how's it going? Like, we try to be really genuine in our connection, and even little things like, I think we used to say, Mai FM, who's this? But now it's like, kia ora, how are you today? Like, just a shift in the way we kind of approach people. I think they feel a lot more comfortable to share these awesome stories, because the listeners are half the show. It's not just us. Like, I think people would get really bored if we were just talking about our lives all the time. I like doing rather than going me, I, like, actually making it like a story that I have. If I just change a word and make it we, I suppose we would do that, right? As opposed to I. People connect a lot more. And so I think it's so cool that we've been able to create that space. I don't think it's anything new and groundbreaking. I think there are a few stations that are able to do that, but I think it's really cool that our show's been able to do it, and so early in the piece, because I know it can take a really long time I hate saying this, like, train listeners, but it's not training them, it's just telling them like, hey, you come through, like anytime you want to ring us, just ring us, and we'll all have a yarn.
Like thinking about it, you're like, man, I used to do this, I used to love
doing
this, and now you're on the receiving end, you get to provide that for other people, you know, like, so that's a buzz. And the thing that I also was aware of is that, you know, even though that you go through your own personal things, you sort of leave that at home, but you've also not sort of shelled yourself off to always just be super on.
Yeah.
You know, you use your platform to sort of like share those personal things and your struggles sometimes with always being on, even though you're going through certain things. And so how has that transition been? Because when I've seen it, it's like, you know, people really sort of like resonate with some of those things that you go through. So when you sort of like dabble between the two, I guess, states that you're in, or have been in, you know, like how have you been navigating that space?
I think that me being a lot more open about what I was going through behind closed doors on air made me sort of accept it more. I think saying it out loud makes you go, okay, yeah, that's actually what I'm dealing with. But it also, I think I got myself into a little bit of a rut at one point that because I was struggling, I almost felt guilty. I felt guilty that I wasn't able to perform, but I didn't want to tell people why. And then when I kind of reframed it and was like, well, if I tell them why, then I don't feel guilty because at least I put it out there. And then it just I could never have prepared myself for the love that I received, the awhi, the tautoko after the first time I spoke out about it. And now it's very casual. I'd be like, yeah, like throwback to when I was depressed. And you know, like, even though some people are like, oh, you shouldn't laugh about it. That's the way I cope with it, and that's the way I deal with it. And a lot of my friends, like especially in this space, like a few of my best mates, we all work in this sort of media space, and we are all very adamant on making sure that part of the conversation is a very normal part of the conversation. I don't want anyone to ever shy away from it. And I think it was a weird one. It was a weird little hill, little hump to get over. But once I got over it, now it just feels so much easier to go to work. And just to be able to go, like, even if I wasn't good for work, like needed a bit of a mental health day, it feels easy to just text the boys, hey, I can't do today, I'm just not all there and I don't think I'm able to perform, and they just go, sweet. Whereas before that, because I was trying to hide it so much, I was like, I can't have a sick day, I can't do that to the boys. I feel guilty. I don't want to do that. Like the show's going to suck if not all of us are there. And then it's like, hang on, like we're not saving lives. Like, come on now. People will forgive you. People will respect you for being self-aware and acknowledging that you're not up to it. You know, that people don't want to see you crumble. They don't want to see that. They want to see you win. So I think acknowledging that and kind of going, if one of the boys or even one of my friends was going through the same thing, how would I want them to communicate it with me? Would I want them to shut off from me? Would I want them to boil over? No, I want them to tell me and then me to be aware. So I think that's kind of the lens I had to look at it through, and then it made it a lot easier. Yeah,
because you've got to sometimes, accept some of the situations that we sometimes find ourselves in, right? Like if we're feeling shitty and we're just pushing it to the side and we're not taking ownership in that and we're trying to like put on this facade, it never goes away. It actually makes it worse because you're lingering and you feel this feeling of like living in a contradiction. You're like, I'm putting this out, but I'm feeling this. And it isn't until we sort of like accept, like, man, yeah, I'm actually going through this. And we just sort of like, and I don't want to sort of put this word out there because it is really getting thrown out there, which is like around just being vulnerable, like you sometimes just got to sink into that, and when you're authentically in that vulnerable space you feel completely sort of exposed, and you got to be exposed to express those feelings and just to sort of like sit in that yuckiness. And once you sort of like feel it, it's like, all right, cool, now how can I process this better? And being able to open up to other people gives you a fresh perspective of everything that we go through personally, and for you to share that in the way that you do, and I think ever since then, like that massive post you've done, it just feels like it's just gone boom, 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 like strength to strength. And so the other thing that I wanted to touch on is, recently you've just been loved up, girl. That's been like a big journey of yours that you've shared along the show and along your journey. Like, are you a hopeless romantic? Have you always sort of just been in that whole space of enjoying being in a relationship? Or
100%. Yeah. I think it's like a blessing and a curse, but my parents have been together for 30, they got married in 1990, so 32 years this year. And like it works, and like they're still together, and they have this beautiful marriage and beautiful family, and like, well, not me to saying I'm in a beautiful family, but you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
And so I think I see it because I can see it in front of me. It's very tangible, like falling in love and being with the same person for the rest of your life, because my parents ain't splitting up. Like, that's them, that's their forever ting. And so I've always been a believer in that, but I have just had such an interesting an interesting few relationships that it's kind of like my first serious relationship, we were together for a couple of years and it was really good, but we just grew apart. And then the next one was like someone I'd been mates with for years. We tried it out and then it didn't work out, and I was like, okay. And then the next one, which is the one that I learned all the lessons from, because I didn't set boundaries, and I was so used to people actually just treating me right that I didn't know how to see. I didn't have a very good foundation of recognizing when someone wasn't treating me right. And I think because I like to go all in and give my all, I got myself in a situation where, I'd fallen for someone who didn't treat me well and was, pretty horrible actually. And then that relationship ending but not being able to let go. So it's been a big journey over the last sort of like 18 months to 2 years of me finally sort of moving on from that. And but like I eventually got to a place where I could. I think but I had to, and no matter how many friends tell you he's bad for you, just cut him off, I think it's really important for people to learn on their own. Like, and hey, grateful for every friend that ever told me, wake up, he's horrible. But I think I had to learn it. You had to learn, like, make the mistakes on your own and learn from it, because that's how you actually get over it. And I had a friend say to me, like, the universe will make you learn the same lesson over and over again until you actually listen and change, what you're doing. Otherwise, you're just always going to get the same results. And I felt like every sort of, if I was ever interested in someone, it always ended like in the same way. Even if it was just a 3-week fling, it was always the same thing happening. And I was like, I need to change something about what I'm doing, about myself. I need to set some boundaries. I need to have some time on my own. So I did. I had a few months on my own. I think it was kind of grateful for lockdown last year here in Auckland. I was like, I actually can't see anybody, so I may as well not talk to anybody. So that was really good for me, and I got to work on myself a little bit. And I, through a lot of lockdown, I stayed with my mum because I just wanted to be around my mum. And mum, she was like, I'm going to cook you all your food. You need to work out every day, and we're going to get you on a good waka. And so mum got me on some bloody meal plan. I wasn't overweight or anything like that. She was just like, wanted to get me healthy and good stuff in my body. And I was like feeling more active, feeling stronger physically, mentally. And I got in a really good place. And then when we got to summer last year, I was like, oh my God, it was like all these guys came out of their little caves, and they all of a sudden, all these nice people wanted to actually communicate with me and talk to me. And I was like, wow, where did this come from? And I think just as fate would have it, I sort of slid into someone's DMs that happens to be my boyfriend now, and he is lovely. He is so lovely, and he's so caring. And I quite often find myself going, oh my God, why are you being so nice? And then I'm like, that's the bare minimum, that's the standard. But I think because I'm at a point where I'm self-aware of that now, and I can recognize red flags, and a bit of a joke I have with him is like, well, as soon as I see a red flag, I'm gonna tell you, but I haven't seen one yet, so it's good. But he's really, really cool. I'm so grateful to have him in my life, and it makes all that journey that was so tough for a couple of years, it's just so worth it. And I'm like, okay, see, I finally listened to the universe and was like, sort of my shit out. And then now, I'm where I'm at now. But it's cool because I'm like, this is what I wanted the whole time.
Well, I resonate with that deeply. I was going through like some similar circumstances in my own life in terms of relationships, and the universe just does sort of like create the same sort of scenarios that, oftentimes you don't listen, and you're repeating the same mistake. And it's not until you go through that enough where you just sort of like start to sort of step back and be like, hold up, like maybe it's not everything that's happening there. Like maybe it's like something that I'm doing
or allowing, not necessarily doing, but it's like you're allowing a type of behavior. And so no one's ever, I think I got to a point where I was like, no one's actually going to take me seriously if I don't set these boundaries for myself. And it was the best thing I ever did, but it just took way too long to get there. But,
Well, that's mean that lesson actually like came up for you, because like when you put up the boundaries, it's like, you're respecting your space.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And like it takes a certain individual to understand, well, what is that boundary? And when you can be sort of certain in that, well, at least you've got your measure now. You've sort of almost not necessarily protected yourself, but you're staying true to sort of like what you feel is reasonable for you to open up a bit more.
Yeah.
And my biggest lesson was filling up my own cup. I was in a space where I thought, I was giving to the relationship, and for me, when I knew that I was at fault, this was, after the fact. When I knew I was at fault was when I would give and I would expect something back.
Yeah.
Because I was so empty in terms of I needed something back. But I wasn't even seeing what was coming back because I wanted it in a particular way. Yeah. And when it didn't come that way, I'd just feel either shitty or feel upset. So within my healing journey around relationships, it wasn't just considering, what had been done to me, but it was like taking ownership in what I had done as well. And in that sort of like journey, it helped me sort of again fill up myself, get healthier, and just out of nowhere, the moment I let go of thinking that I was like not going to be with anyone, boom, my now wife just came into my life.
Oh, there you go.
It's like such a spontaneous thing. Like when you let go of it, it's like you just don't know what's on the other side of that. And I'm just happy, and I'm sure the rest of the country is happy after your announcement. Like, did you expect that kind of response, right?
No, I didn't. I know, because so the best part was I went and did this. If anyone who listens to Mai, you'll know, because you would have heard about it every week. I went to this psychic and she did a reading for me, like sort of lower half of last year, and she said there's a lot of things she talked about. We talked about my career, and then we eventually got onto the topic of love life, because I can't help myself. I'm like, am I going to have a man next year? And she was really cool, and she said, look, what I'm sensing is that the person, your next relationship is someone you haven't met yet. So, and that kind of made me go, okay, so stop looking at all these like duds that I keep like going back to. But she was like, it's someone you haven't met yet. She was like, I see social situations, perhaps you'll meet through friends. And she said, I feel like you're going to enter this relationship somewhere between February to April next year, so 2022. And so I brought this up on air, and then my old producer, Mato Mark, he said, all through February to April, we have to have an update every week. And we called it cuffing season, and we were like, we have to have an update every week, see if the psychic is right. Like, this is so funny. This is great content. So I used to do these cuffing season updates. So I would always update. So whatever was going on in my life. And then lo and behold, I end up in a relationship in freaking end of February. And I was like, what are the odds of that? So I think because I was doing these constant updates, like people started to get invested, and I had people DMing me being like, what was the update, sis, this week? I missed it. Like, what's happening in your life? And and then it was quite funny because like the first time I spent like a big bulk sort of weekend with my now boyfriend, we all caught COVID together, and like so it was even funnier. Like just like all these things were happening, and I was like, man, this is awesome. So I announced it in my cuffing season update, and I thought. But I actually got a little bit of shit because I hadn't even told my sister that I had a boyfriend. She found out on freaking social media. I was like, I'm so sorry.
So were you sort of protecting what you had with him?
Yeah,
for a little bit until it sort of nurtured into like what it was gonna be like.
And then when he asked me out, I was like, okay. I was like, look, my bro, I'm gonna have to say this on air and I was like, do you mind? Is that okay? And he's like, of course not. Like, and which was a crazy thing for me because in my last relationship, God forbid I said anything on air about him. He would lose it. He'd be insecure, all sorts. Whereas this guy was going, go for it. That's your mahi. Like, I don't mind. So I got to speak about it, and the boys were just like, what? Because I feel like they've been through the journey for the last 2 years with me. But no, I didn't expect so many people to be so invested, but it was so cool to see. And I think it was just really nice that people wanted me to win. And and you know, get to that point. And yeah, I'm just so
the bro
grateful.
would have been tuning in. He was like waiting to take his shot, you know, like he was probably waiting for the right things that you were saying, like, oh, this is happening. He was like, oh, sweet. I'm not going to get a no.
No, it was awesome though. He was just, I it's so cool that it's him that I got to kind of like showcase in that way. And I'm a big person who's like, I'm like so obsessed with him and I just want to show him off, and I love that. It's a very reciprocal energy. And I actually also had another friend. I did a show earlier in the year, 60 Seconds, and as I was filming it, one of the stylists, bless her, she's awesome. She's kind of, I don't know what the right term is, but she's like clairvoyant vibes, and like she kind of senses things, and she would do readings and pull angel cards for us in the morning. It was really cool energy to be around. And she was doing my makeup one day and then just sort of grabbed me and was like, the next person you're going to be with is your twin flame. And then it was kind of a little bit of a silence. I was like, really? And she goes, yeah. And then we just carried on, and that was kind of it. And then I sort of like was like, okay, what is a twin flame? Like figuring it all out. And I do think the guy I'm with is my twin flame. He's very, we mirror each other's energy. There's a lot of like push and pull, but we're both sort of working, like, even though it might be sort of tougher circumstances, we're both putting in the same effort and working really hard to like make this work. But it's that whole like mirroring energy. Like, I don't have to question what he's feeling. I know exactly what he's feeling, and he knows where I'm at, and it's just such a nice place to be at.
Wow, man.
So corny. I know. I'm like,
get you, girl. But I think it just sort of like what I'm hearing and what I'm feeling is that you're appreciating everything that is in your life at the moment because of everything that you've gone through.
Yeah.
And you need sometimes those sort of like valleys of just really challenges, you know, to sort of like help you either smell the roses or see the roses even. So, and I think if we were to start consciously sort of celebrating those kinds of things, you know, I honestly don't feel it's going to sort of jeopardize the journey that we're on. I feel it's actually going to enhance it.
100%.
You know, and I think the word that came out for me was, you know, reciprocal. You know, like knowing that your journey or the cup that you're feeding into, the container that you're feeding into, it's also coming in from the other side. And that's the one thing that I've known within my marriage is that the thing that when things sort of tend to occur within our relationship, there's always effort that goes into it to sort of not necessarily like to resolve or anything like that, but it's just like, all right, this is what's happening, and we both put in the effort and we both feel it from both sides. And I feel if we can always do that, not feeling like we've got to go to the relationship to take from it and feel good, it's like, nah, come into the relationship and both contribute to it. But if we can show up and it's the best versions of ourselves, or at least feeling good about ourselves, the relationship will take care of itself. Yeah,
and you're not working separately, you're a team. It's like a unit effort. Like, I think like knowing that a relationship is collaborative, it's not, you know, not going back and forth. I love that aspect of it and acknowledging that. But yeah, I mean, it's very early days, still honeymoon phase, you know.
Yeah.
Ask me in 2 years, maybe I'll go. Oh, he's annoying.
So me and Hinipania talk about that a lot, actually. Like, we just give each other grief, you know, but it's that playfulness. And I think in the later years or in the longer years, you gotta, you know, because it's always ever evolving, you know, so it's about, all right, how do you sort of, you know, continue to have that playfulness, and how do you continue to still acknowledge each other? And I think that's just what being in a long-term relationship is about, because that honeymoon phase is like amazing, you know, and we always talk about it like, I remember when we first went together, it was just like boof, just like sparks, and now it's just all about, all right, cool, we're in this relationship, and we got to continue to keep feeding it, otherwise it will go a little bit maroke, you know, it will just go a little bit dry. But if that effort continues to go in, well, there's something beautiful there.
I see. I can't wait for that. I can't wait for the, like, becoming, I don't know, just so accustomed to each other, because we're still trying to figure each other out and all that kind of stuff, but it's fun, and I think we're both like really open to it. Like, I made him like when we first decided, we're like, okay, we're gonna make this thing, I go, you need to do this quiz. It's a quiz on what your love language is. And he was like, okay. I know he probably wasn't that into it, but I said, I think straight from the start, we need to figure out what's the best way to communicate with each other, because this is going to be tough because we're doing long distance. And he was like all for it. So, and he goes, what's your love language? I'm like, words of affirmation. Tell me you're proud of me. Tell me I look good. Like, you know, just things like that. And he's like, okay, cool. And he's really good at that. He doesn't actually have to make too much of an effort to do that. He's really good at affirming me and giving me reassurance. And then he figured out his one was acts of service. And I was like, okay, makes sense, because the day before I had cleaned his house and I think he was pretty stoked.
Happy,
so
yeah.
I was like, okay, cool.
Yeah.
But it was just cool sort of acknowledging those things so we know how to communicate with each other. And like, you know, we've sort of made promises to each other like, okay, if stuff gets tough or you're having a bad day, just let me know. Or, you know, if you need some space, just acknowledging you need space as opposed to just like not not talking to me. Because I've definitely had some experience with that. And I think he's really good at acknowledging also, because I've been so candid about the stuff I went through in previous relationships, because no matter how much you work through, I think there's certain parts of relationship trauma that you aren't able to deal with until you're in the situation again.
Yeah, exactly.
So I have found myself kind of like insecurities popping up, but I think I'm very aware when they pop up, because I go, okay, he hasn't done anything to trigger this, so what is it? And so I will just say to him, hey, I'm feeling a little triggered. I think it's coming from this. I think that's what it's rooted from. And he will just listen and, you know, do his best to reassure me, and then we're able to move on, as opposed to me like freezing up, putting the wall up and going,
and
no.
creating scenarios in your head that might not necessarily be real, right?
And sort of self-sabotaging what is a really good relationship. Like,
good on you.
Yeah,
good on you for voicing that and even just, you know, and I think it's the boundaries that you've not necessarily placed on the relationship, but it's more so yourself.
Yeah.
And you're honoring those boundaries by just sort of like communicating and letting him know what those are.
Yeah.
And it's quite funny, you know, like the love languages, like Hene Pania's love language is touch. Oh. And that's like my lowest.
Oh, really?
So that's been like one of the things that we've had to work through. Like I could just be touching her like this and she'll feel good, but that's something that we've had to work through our relationship, because, you know, and it came from my own sort of like feelings of trauma around touch, because there was in past relationships I literally sort of had to like fight or ask for it, and it never came, you know, and so when it just came in abundantly, I just froze up. You know, like because of everything that had happened in my own life. But it's gotten to a point now where it's like I feel uncomfortable without that kind of affection. You know, so we're starting to sort of like balance out and learn those things. But she does acts of service, because that's mine as well, acts of service. And it's so natural for her. So for me, it's just a constant like, all right, just checking myself in. All right, how can I sort of, because at the end of the day, the realization that I had is that I love her so much, but the thing that makes her feel loved, I'm so challenged with it. Yeah. Why? You know, like let me work on whatever that is so I can actually like provide her needs, or, you know, sort of give her what it is that she would feel from me. And so that's been my own personal journey, and it has been challenging. But getting to a point where it's now nice and enjoyable. It's good, bro.
I love that. I love that. Yeah.
Because I think relationships to me are probably like the most interesting things, like personally for me, because of what I've been through in relationships. Surely for you, like the most lessons. So you're just so constantly like looking at ways to better the relationship, right? Yeah. And what I've always come down to is like, if I'm good, I can either see things in the relationship where I'm doing wrong and I can do the adjustments, but every time that I feel like I'm either triggered or trying to blame, I always just take a second and feel like, yo, where's that coming from? Yeah. Is it the dishes? Is it that? Or is it just like something
is it something else?
You know, is it something else? And and just having that little pause to consider that has been super helpful for me, you know?
Yeah. And I even had a chat with my therapist a couple of weeks ago, because I was finding myself a little bit overwhelmed, and I was like, am I overwhelmed because of this relationship, and is that something that's sort of contributing to that? And it wasn't, and I was like, why would it be overwhelming me? I'm enjoying it. I love that I'm here, and I'm so happy to be in this place. But she just said it was just that whole like you just because you're overwhelmed, doesn't mean it's anything that they're doing. You shouldn't blame them, and it's like, oh, you're blaming this relationship. It's just like you need to just take a moment to kind of figure out where it's coming from, and then go from there. And I think just being able to step back, and I feel like I was going to quote something that the therapist said, but I've just like totally forgot what she said now. She said too much. She said she was like, Tegan, you need to sort it out. Yeah. But I think the taking the step back is so important, and almost like, and sometimes you don't have the opportunity to take the step back. And I've even found like at work, I think not snapped, but I might have said something a little bit like hastily in a situation, and straight away all it took was 2 seconds, and I went, I'm really sorry I said that, and I'm really sorry for that energy. That is so not what this relationship should be. So I apologize. Can we just reset? Yep, cool. And so it's kind of like nice knowing that these days, even if I do react and I'm not able to get there in time before I'm like triggered, I can acknowledge it straight away and go and do the step back like as soon as it happens and goes, hang on a minute, like check yourself, like it's not right. Yeah.
But listen to your growth, girl.
Oh, I know.
Listen
that's on
to
growth.
Your growth. But nah, sis, it's been awesome to like catch up with you. I will leave it there because I do know you got to go and catch up. Go and pick up your mans at the moment. So just want to say thank you for coming on and sharing your story, your energy and this playfulness, and also just the lessons that you've been able to sort of like pluck out of your own journey and being able to share that with us. So just going to give it over to you, sis, if there's any words that you might want to share with the listeners, whether it's around, I don't know, creating more abundance, or whether it's around, working through those challenges of anxiety or judgment or anything along those lines. So I'll just give it over to you to close us off.
I might close it off with someone who's like, struggles with getting overwhelmed, struggles with anxiety, and in this kind of fast-paced lifestyle, it's really hard to sort of keep grounded sometimes. But I had a friend reach out to me the other day. She's sort of going through it, and she said, like, what did you used to do? And I said, write a list of all the things you're proud of, all the things you're grateful for, all the things that you are just like stoked that you've been able to achieve, all the things that you're interested in, because there are times where you're going to go, what is going on in my life? I'm struggling so much. I don't know what to do here. But when you have like a tangible list of things that, you're more than just your emotions, like, look at all these things I've achieved. Whether it's something like I go, I'm so proud that I work on Mai FM, or whether it's something, damn, I'm so proud I got up today. It can be something as little as that. I think always believing in yourself and kind of just giving yourself so many positive affirmations, even if you don't believe it, that you kind of like trick yourself into believing it. I think that's really important. But if you're going through it, I don't know, it's going to get better. Don't get too overwhelmed. Take your time with things. Take a step back. But more importantly, do things that you love.
Carry on.
And you got to risk it to get the biscuit. That's my favourite. I hope that was all right. Thanks, guys.
Honestly, the sense of like overwhelmed, there was one thing that came in, or was at a Gary V thing that I went, the feelings of being overwhelmed was, because I sort of said that to him, because sometimes we feel overwhelmed around the good things that are happening. And it's cool that you said we just got to bring ourselves to this moment and to show appreciation and gratitude for the good things.
Yeah.
And if we can sort of like feel that, we can start to then look further into, all right, what is the next thing that we can start working towards? But we feel overwhelmed because sometimes we don't feel worthy of all the good things. Whereas if we drop into the gratitude, we're like, nah, I should be here. I should be sitting at this table. I deserve
to be here.
Exactly.
And also another one, allow yourself to decompress. Whether there's a lot of bad things going on or a lot of good things, or life is just full on, like allow yourself time to just stop and go, feel it, move through it. I was told that I'm like a car. I love this analogy, that I'm like a car that instead of filling up the tank, I'm just putting $20 in each time, and I never actually stop and just like let myself go, or like fill my cup right up and then get ready to go on to the next thing. Sometimes it feels like a bit of a rat race and it's so constant, but allow yourself to decompress. I think it's really helpful.
100%. And again, for those who are in that space of trying to like fill up your cup and you hear affirmations, you sort of hear things around gratitude, because these kinds of things are important, but the key thing here is to actually like feel like into those kinds of things that you're grateful for, or the things that you appreciate in your life. But as you said, sometimes you can't access that feeling, but you do got to continue to say it, because one of these days it's going to click. So it's about putting in those reps, putting in that putting in those moments for yourself to try and fill up your cup. And if you feel it's not working, it might not be, but if you can turn it on and just be in that space, eventually it's all gonna click. So just want to acknowledge you for bringing that whakaaro and everything else that you've sort of brought to the table, sis. So thank you so much again. Tune into Mai FM. And also, where could people find you online, bro?
You can find me on Instagram, just Tegan Yorwath. That's just my name. And just listen to Mai. Honestly, I don't care if you follow me on Instagram. Just listen to Mai, please. It's a good show. 6 till 10 a.m. Monday to Friday. Find Mai FM in your area.
Check that.
We've got a podcast too. Go listen to the podcast.
All right, whānau. Thank you for tuning in. Bless up. And again, thanks, sis.
Thank
Let's
you.
go.